Welcome back to Wow Drama Stories. Let's jump in. Story number 1. Opie writes, myself, 25 female, and my fiancé, 27 male, have a 2-month-old son. We are overjoyed at being parents, but most of my in-laws are refusing to even see our baby because of a decision we made concerning his name. My in-laws have a tradition of giving the firstborn son of every generation the same name. Let's say it's Peter. This has been going on for about 7 generations already, and they're very serious about it. My fiancé's eldest cousin was the latest person to get named Peter. Every one of his cousins has only had daughters so far, so our baby is the first son of his generation and consequently should get the name. I have no problem with the name Peter and would have been okay with naming my son that. Unfortunately, that was also the name of my uncle who died before I was born. I won't go into details, but it was tragic and traumatizing for my family. My father never got over losing his younger brother. My grandmother asked the family not to name any of our future children Peter during her lifetime. My mother-in-law and father-in-law knew about this promise and at first seemed not only to be okay with us avoiding the name Peter, but also supportive of the one we chose. However, my grandmother sadly passed away when I was 7 months pregnant. We traveled for her funeral. On our last day there, my in-laws called to offer me their condolences. Then, my mother-in-law asked me if I was willing to think about the name Peter now. Suddenly, they were insistent that the name we chose was awful and we had to honor their tradition. According to them, they had only agreed to make an exception for us for my grandmother's sake and had no obligation to keep it now that she had passed. My family agrees that while it's true we don't have to avoid the name anymore, it still doesn't feel right to use it. My fiancé agrees with me as well, but his parents spent the last weeks of my pregnancy trying to convince us to change our minds about the name. When our baby was born and we named him what we wanted, my in-laws were furious that we had broken a 7-generation-old family tradition. Some of them hadn't previously wanted to name their sons Peter, but did it anyway for the family's sake. They said our decision was selfish and that my family should have moved on by now. This has truly nothing to do with whether my family has moved on or not. It just felt like a betrayal to my grandmother and uncle's memories to even consider using the name. My father-in-law offered us $1,000 to change our son's name to Peter after he was born. That was 2 months ago, and neither of my fiancé's parents have met the baby or seen us since I was pregnant. Most of my in-laws are on their side, and this is causing a huge rift between my fiancé and his family. He assures me he's fine, but I'm starting to feel really guilty about this. Am I the a-hole? Edit. The tradition started, as far as I know, when original Peter died, and his son, also named Peter, named his firstborn after his father. Peter III ended up having the first son of the following generation and did the same thing. That one died before having children, so his sister gave the name to her son, and so on. The name Peter is very common in my country, so none of them ever got bullied over it, and the fact that it was also my uncle's name isn't as unlikely as one might think. Also, middle names aren't used in my country. Most people get the maternal surname before the paternal one instead. Edit 2. It wasn't $1,000. Different country, different currency. It's still a lot of money, but would probably translate to about $200 US. And a month later we have this update from Opie. Thank you so much to everyone who commented and offered support. A lot has happened since I posted, so I thought I'd give you an update. About a week after my post, my fiancé's parents contacted us. They apologized for their behavior and begged to meet my son. They said they were ready to leave the naming debacle behind and truly wanted to be involved in their grandson's life. We were skeptical, but invited them over to meet the baby. The visit went well. They began coming over almost every day during the next 3 weeks. I noticed neither of them ever called my son by his name, but I didn't point it out. For the first time in months, things seemed good between my fiancé and his parents. One day, my fiancé was helping my father-in-law with something at our place, so my mother-in-law and I went to the park with my baby. Sometime later, I had to go to the bathroom, so I left him in the stroller with her. When I got back, she was sitting on a park bench, chatting with a woman who was cooing over my son. I went over there and introduced myself as son's name's mom, and she said, "I thought his name was Peter." I didn't say a word, and neither did my mother-in-law. She followed me to the car, and we went back to my apartment. On the way there, I texted my fiancé about what had happened. The moment we got there, he kicked both of his parents out of our place. He'd read my text and confronted his father. Thankfully, my father-in-law is a terrible liar and confessed immediately. Apparently, both my in-laws only call my son Peter. That includes whenever they're talking about him, every time they introduce him to someone else, and even baby talking to him on the few occasions they were left alone with him. Neither of them are embarrassed by this, and they both think they're in the right. We're heartbroken, especially my fiancé, not only because his parents can't let go of their pride, but also because the name we chose for our son means a lot to us both. I blame myself for encouraging my fiancé to allow them near our son. I was raised in a different city than all my grandparents, and always wished they could have been more involved in my life. Losing my grandmother didn't help. Pretty much every doubt I had only existed because I thought it would be important for my son to grow up with all of his grandparents around. But now all my guilt is gone. If they can't respect my son enough to call him by his name, they don't deserve to be in his life. I hope they enjoyed the 3 weeks they had with their grandson, because that's all they're getting until they get their heads out of their asses. Oh, Opie, these stories are so sad when we have a wedding or the birth of a child. Something that's supposed to bring families closer together ends up causing a rift between family members. It's just such a pity. It's sad. And while I understand your in-laws' feelings on the name Peter, I get it. I really do get it that it's important to them and they want to keep it going. And I understand also that for them it's a disappointment. I get it. I really do. But it's not their choice. It is your son and your fiancé, and you get to choose what you want to name your son. And for them to go behind your back and continue to call your son Peter, that's just wrong. It's disrespectful to you and your son, as you said. And it's such a shame that they're missing out on their grandson because of something like this. I mean, what is more important to them? To be there and to watch their grandson grow up, or to have him carry this name, Peter? So, Opie, I don't know what to say. I understand why you don't have them in your lives right now. Hopefully, they will come to their senses and they'll accept the name that you and your fiancé have chosen for your son, and they'll be able to be a part of your child's life. And as you said, you really do want them to be a part. But I can understand why at the moment it's just not possible for the two of you to have them in your lives. So, Opie, I hope that that day when they come to their senses is not far away. For the sake of your family, for the sake of everyone. Story number 2. Opie writes, I, 21 male, am from the South. I grew up in New Orleans and Texas. My mom runs a catering business and the majority of clients were either at home in Louisiana or in Texas. I add this to say that I grew up cooking and helping my mom cook for the business. I was frying chicken and catfish when I could reach the stove, and making gumbo and buttermilk biscuits at a very young age. I'm currently in culinary school right now. I've lived in a rented house on the East Coast with my roommate, 22 male, for a year and a half. He's not a friend or anything. We just linked up because we both needed roommates in the area. He's good to live with, and we watch shows and movies together. We hang out and go for drinks sometimes. I always make friends easily because being from the South and doing customer service related things since I was a kid, I know how to talk and charm and listen to folk, despite being naturally more in the introverted spectrum. My roommate has been seeing his girlfriend, 20 female, for like 6 months. I've met her before and seen her in passing. Roommate and his girlfriend had a 2-week break from school school things. She still lives at her parents', so she decided to stay here the whole 2 weeks. I was just doing things as I would normally do. It got weird at first when I was about to go mow the lawn and the roommate stopped me and said he wanted to mow. I usually always mow. A couple of days later, I was outside washing my car. I asked both of them if they wanted me to do theirs. She looked like she was going to agree, but he looked at her angrily, so they declined. I cook pretty frequently at home as well, and usually let my roommate have some. So anytime I'd make some, I would say that they could have some, and this would get him pissed. Weeks prior, when she was here and we were all talking, she mentioned this specific kind of cheesecake that she really likes. So I made and sent out a group text that everyone could have it. My roommate got upset. I don't see anything as overstepping a boundary, as this is how I treat him and all guests. The other day he told me how annoying it was to hear his girlfriend talk about how good your roommate's fresh-baked bread is. I'm not trying to make him look bad or anything. This is simply how I was raised. If I bake 2 loaves of bread, I'm going to leave it out for the house to eat. Edit. The cheesecake is just common courtesy type thing to me. When his parents come over, I make pound cake because they like it. If a guest is coming, you get/make what they like. Nothing odd about picking up their favorite chips or making some tea when guests arrive. Just how I was raised. Edit. Wow, this has blown up. Just want to say, we generally have a good roommate relationship. We're not best friends, but it's friendly enough. The only change has been when his girlfriend is here. So, LOL, no, I'm not looking for new roommates, / to be adopted, / or to move, but thanks. Here is some more things that upset him. I went to the grocery store and asked if anyone needed anything. I was frying chicken and offered the first best pieces out the oil to them. I changed the oil to my own car. I used a smoker in the backyard to make brisket. I grill and smoke in the backyard and needed a piece of wood cut into a certain way to hold something up. I cut and nailed some wood together in the garage. Feels like I can't even exist while she is here. Final edit. I tend to see the good and best in people, so I was not seeing him as being very insecure and was trying to look at this in a more positive light. But he just texted me and said that I greet his girlfriend in too kind of a way, and it's annoying that I say, quote, be safe, unquote, when she leaves the house. I say this to him and everyone when they tell me they're going somewhere. He sent me a long text detailing it's bad that I look her in the eyes when she's talking to me. Maybe it is time for a new roommate. Update. A lot of people wanted an update. I wanted to see my roommate in a more positive light. I tend to see the best in people, but reading the replies and his recent actions have opened my eyes. I never took him too seriously because he's a pretty harmless little guy in my perspective. There is a big difference in how he lashes out at me compared to his girlfriend. He's gotten big tough with me in text form, but only mildly upset when I see him in person. I have taken a step back and looked at everything I could have done to provoke him, not excusing his behavior. And while I don't believe I am in the wrong for being hospitable and hosting a guest, if a 75-year-old man was staying with us, I would treat him the same as I have treated his girlfriend. I do realize that he is not from the South. I was told by others in school that women outside the South don't enjoy being called ma'am. However, I've never seen a lady get angry when I call her ma'am up here. I call women of all ages dear or darling, and I could see how that could be seen as flirtatious, even though it's just part of how I speak. Now that he knows I have seen him in his true form, he doesn't even try to act the way he did before. I sent his girlfriend screenshots of the texts he sent and told her the things he said. I'm not sure if she's leaving or staying, but I've let her know and told her to let me know if she needs any help. I don't plan on moving anytime soon, as I enjoy having a room with a grill and a smoker and a garage. He told me he's looking for new places to live and will potentially go back to his parents. I make enough working at a restaurant to afford the rent alone. I would like more going into savings, but I'm not worried financially for the time being. I am flattered and overwhelmed by all the positive replies. About 100 of you told me to thank my mom, so I sure will. I grew up working in hospitality with my mom and siblings. My dad is the one that instilled respect into me. He never felt emasculated, even when my mom's business ended up making more than he does. They just save their money from their jobs and go on vacation a lot. Thank you for all the kindness and offers for adoption / jobs / relationships / friendships. LOL. A lot of people wanting gumbo and chicken recipes. Too much to type out. But I use curry powder in a lot of things to give it some good flavor. That's how my mom does it. White pepper is essential for that good fried chicken flavor. Well, OP, I guess we have to have sympathy with your former roommate because, yeah, you do kind of sound close to perfect. And clearly, your former roommate saw you as a threat and somebody he felt he had to compete with but knew that he couldn't. I enjoyed reading your story. I wish I could have done it in a southern accent. And this kind of sounds like something that would make a very good movie, a good romantic comedy type movie where the perfect guy from the south moves in with a guy that just can't hold a candle to him. Anyway, Opie, good luck to you, and I hope you find a new roommate soon that's going to want to learn from you rather than feel threatened by you. Well, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed these stories. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Consider subscribing. Leave me a comment. And I'm going to see you again very soon. Take care of yourself. And thank you for listening. Bye.